I have had such a day that I did not expect, and I am here to tell you about it. Because, as I shared in one of the shorts that I uploaded recently, I heard Lewis Howes on the School of Greatness podcast mention how his goal in life is just to learn things and share what he learns. So I figured, why not take a minute to share what I have learned from this day and things not necessarily going the way that I'd planned. So, as per my usual fashion, if you've seen these videos before, you know that I often do them spontaneously. They're not scripted out or anything, and especially today, this is really just going to be a free flow of thoughts with hopefully something interesting, something that you can learn from my experience. Before we get into that, I will just say, if you have not subscribed yet, please do that. And I'm super duper excited to share that I've recently released my first online course. It's available on Udemy, and it's called Show Up Sure: Secrets to Embody Confidence for a Lifetime. And this was inspired by my 9, almost 10 years teaching public speaking, which is humanity's number one fear. And so helping people deal with their fears around public speaking gave me such incredible insight into limiting beliefs and insecurity and how we can overcome those. And so this course is what I think is a really powerful combination of physical shifts you can make, perspective, psychological shifts you can make, and of course, real world action steps you can take to improve your self-confidence. It's available right now for $27.99, and there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't love it, you can get your money back, okay? But I encourage you to check it out. The link is in the description. In addition to that, I always forget to mention that I do have a free download available on my website or in the description as well. That is 5 powerful perspective shifts for perpetual confidence. Again, taken from my years of experience as a speech coach, coupled with navigating my mother's terminal illness, which has given me enormous insight onto life and death and ways that we can optimize our life to make it better before we die. And so feel free to check that out and download it. It's totally free, and I've put a lot of time and thought into it, so I hope you enjoy it. Without further ado, so today, I'm just going to tell you the story of what happened today and some insights that I've been having from it as I've existed today. So just a little background. This morning, in my meditation, I had this intention. So every morning after I meditate, I journal and I set a goal for the day. And I usually forget it. It never sticks with me. But my intention this morning was to choose and remember life is a choice and choose to be free. Choose to feel peace. And of course, I forgot that until like 20 minutes ago. I was like, oh yeah, I guess this is why I set that intention. So right now I can choose to feel peace. And today has definitely tested my ability to do that. So I didn't have any clients today. I didn't have any work to do, any technical work to do, but I wanted to use today as a time to be productive, to film videos, to write some poetry because I'm a little behind on things that I need to finish writing. And I'm enrolled in several online courses as well, so I had plans to maybe do some of those. I'm working on my first poetry book, and I wanted to work on the formatting of that. So this morning, I decided I was going to download this program called Atticus. Atticus is a book formatting program, and it was recommended to me on Saturday. Today is Tuesday when I'm filming this. So just a few days ago, I spoke to a woman who'd recently self-published her novel. And I'm working on a poetry book, which is different from a novel, but she self-published through Amazon, and she said if anyone had any questions to ask her. I heard her speak, so I contacted her, and she called me and very graciously walked me through the step-by-step process to self-publishing. So if you're interested in publishing a book, this video might be especially helpful for you. And one of the things she recommended was to download this program called Atticus, which is a formatting program for designing your book. Now, my intention was to hire a freelance book designer. I found one on Fiverr for $75, and I'd already contacted him, and I was just waiting to finalize my manuscript before I sent it to him. But she recommended doing it on Atticus because it's $147, but you have access to it for your whole life, and you have unlimited number of books that you can edit on the platform. So I could pay $75 for one book and then have to go back and forth if I wasn't satisfied with the way it looked, or I could have full control. So I decided this morning, like, okay, I'm gonna download Atticus and just try to do it myself. And it seems pretty straightforward. You just upload your document and it auto-populates it with all of your text, and you can add in the fun formatting stuff. It wasn't quite as straightforward as I expected, and particularly because poetry books are different. Poetry is very dependent on the formatting, and I had already spent a long time, like months, going through and reformatting my poems with the right number of spaces and the right indentation, because if you've heard any of my poetry, you know that it's pretty rhymey, and I want things to fall at a certain rhythm, and so spacing and punctuation is very important for that. So anyway, when I uploaded my manuscript, all of the formatting was lost, and it was all just it was aligned to the left, no indentation, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I realized I could just copy paste from Word into Atticus. So I went and I copied and pasted it, actually from my Google Doc, in the right formatting into Atticus, and it looked like the formatting stayed. So I was like, great. But something was off. So anyway, long story short, I was messing around with this for about 3 hours because I had to go through and copy and paste each individual poem. But then when I was looking at the preview, it didn't look the same. And so I was doing some research, and everything said, whatever you do, do not copy paste from another word processor into Atticus. So I was like, oops, did that, but I'm not going to go undo it because I already did it for all the poems. And I spent a long time customizing the template, customizing the fonts, the sizes, the spacing, but something was still not working. The spacing between the lines was huge. And so it was making one poem take up like 3 pages, which is not necessary. And it just looked funny. It was like line and then space and then line, even though I had it set to the minimum size spacing. So one thing I learned was I emailed support because I was just getting frustrated, and I contacted support and I said, yo, what is with this? Like, I look here and it looks one way, and then on the preview it looks totally different. Now, I didn't contact support right away. This was after about 3 hours, because we have in our world today this attitude of self-sufficiency, which is, it's on Google. Why bother reaching out to a person? Why ask a person when you can just look it up yourself? You can go watch a YouTube video. And so I was starting to get frustrated. I'll come back to the support piece in a moment, the reaching out for support piece in a moment. But before that, I was already getting frustrated because I'm like, I'm a writer. I'm a poet. I'm not a book designer. I'm not a formatter. Even though when I was in high school, I was actually the editor of my high school newspaper, and part of my role was to design the layout on Adobe InDesign, and I loved it. I loved the visual piece. I loved playing around with it, but I was never very fast at it because it's not my forte. I was never taught how to do it. I was self-teaching, and it was super fun and rewarding, and also not something that I would want to do full time. But anyway, so as I was messing around with the layout, part of me was enjoying it because I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. Part of me was frustrated because I didn't understand how it worked. And so as I'm going through formatting it, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, is this worth it? Should I just hire the guy? I ended up paying more money to use my time to do something that I could delegate. which just brings up this whole theme in our lives today of radical self-sufficiency, which is, on the one hand, incredibly empowering, because 50 years ago, if someone wanted to publish their book, they would have to get it published by a company, by a publisher. It wasn't as easy to just go create your own book and put it out in the world. So on the one hand, I'm so grateful that we have access to that and that we have the possibility to share our ideas. This video could potentially reach bajillions of people, just me sitting in my home on my computer recording a video, which is so cool. And so I don't mean to complain about it. At the same time, though, it does put so much responsibility on one person, and this whole idea of a solopreneur is very cool, and I think it can be incredibly isolating, and it ends up using so much of our mental power in a way that we may not necessarily be equipped for. I've never studied book design. I don't know how to use this program. Is it a cool, helpful tool? Sure. Yeah. Will I use it again the next time I publish a book? Probably, as long as it's not a poetry book. But it is really neat that we have access to all of this, but I just want to give voice to the fact that it's also really frustrating. So if you are a solopreneur, or you're a person that has all these big dreams, but you're getting frustrated because you're like, I don't know where to start with that. I don't know the logistics. I just want an agent to find me and put me in their movie, or I just want the publisher to find me and publish my book. I get it. I feel you. And you're not alone. I think a lot of people feel that. I think the people that are successful with the self-publishing route and the self-promoting and the influencer route and all of that are the people who look at it from a stance of, wow, this is so empowering. I get to do this all on my own. Versus this morning, I was kind of having this, I have to do this mentality. Like, I have to format my book. I could have just sent it to a publisher or whatever, but that's not really helpful, and it's very limiting, and it was making me frustrated. And I had to constantly catch myself and say, no, I'm grateful. This is a really cool opportunity. So that's the first thing I learned and wanted to share, was just in anything we do in life, we can shift the perspective from an I have to do this to an I get to do this. How cool that I get to format my own book. Like, what? That's so cool. Yes, it's tedious. Yes, it took hours of my time, but I wasn't working anyway. It's fine, and it's a learning experience, and now I know for next time. But anyway, getting back to the story. So I did reach out for help, because at a certain point I'm like, okay, I can't watch any more YouTube videos. I can't read these Reddit posts. No one's giving me the exact answer that I want, and not even AI was giving me the answer that I needed. So I reached out to their support, and I was very surprised and impressed that very shortly after, probably within 20 minutes, I had a response from an actual person personally addressing me and explaining something I could do to fix it. She was saying that there's a way you can soft space, which I had never heard of. So just FYI, if you want to not indent, but you want to go to the next line, but you don't want it to be as thick, you can press enter. No, you can press shift, enter, or shift, return, and it'll have a soft space. It's a little more delicate. And that seemed to solve the problem. I was like, oh my gosh, amazing. But then I realized, solve the problem, but I would literally have to go do that for every single line of every single poem, and that would delete all the indentations. And so I could do it, but it would take a really long time and be very tedious. And I was like, I don't know about that. So I emailed her back, and I was like, thank you so much. That's so super helpful. I had no idea. Now, do you know if there's a way where I can highlight the whole piece of text, so the whole poem, for example, and apply that soft spacing to the whole poem? And she was like, no, unfortunately, poetry is really tricky. And I was like, that was a little rude. And so just another thing, communication is very important. And so I got at the bottom of her response, there was this little survey from Atticus saying, how was my reply today? And I had a frowny face, a neutral face, and a happy face. And I normally don't fill out those things, but I was like, you know what? That wasn't nice. So I was already frustrated. So I hit the frowny face and I just left a comment, and I tried to be as constructive and kind as possible. And I said, the first email you sent me was so super sweet and very helpful. And then the second email you sent me felt really dismissive. And so then that person responded back and was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to be dismissive. Here are your options. Da, 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 da. And then at the very end of this very long email, she said, to be completely honest, Atticus is not super well equipped for poetry at the moment. So it's fine. It's what I needed to know from the beginning. But that little nugget of lesson in there is to say, communicate. Because if I hadn't reached out to support, I would have probably gone down the rabbit hole even further of YouTube videos, getting frustrated, trying to solve this problem. But just asking that question, I learned something new about the soft spacing. I asked a follow-up question. I was dismissed. I could have just been annoyed and resentful, but I gave the feedback of that was dismissive. That wasn't helpful. And then I got a better response. And then I learned that this platform probably isn't right for me. And even though I'm like, okay, I could have saved like 4 hours this morning, 4 or 5 hours, my whole day. I could have saved a lot of time this morning. Oh well, it's already done, and I learned something new, and now I know it's not the best. Fortunately, they have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So even though I will probably use that platform in the future for future books that are not poetry books, I'm probably going to return it and get my money back because it's not serving me for the purpose that I need. But anyway, so all this happened. I took a break to eat lunch, and then I took a little walk after. And during my walk, I listened to a YouTube video about how to format a poetry book in Microsoft Word. Actually, not a poetry book. It was just formatting books in Word, because I was looking at poetry books specifically, and then I was like, is this possible in Word? Because I didn't want to get InDesign and all that. So I found a really super helpful channel, and I'll link her video that I saw in the description in case you're an aspiring author or you're working on self-publishing, because she gave this best description of here's how you do it in Word, here's how you do the page setup, here's how you do the margins. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have done that all along, but I'm trying not to say could-haves and should-haves, and just here's what I'll do next time. So I came home from my walk, I put my manuscript into Word, and I started doing what the video advised. Again, very tedious because I had to go through each poem and each title of the poem to format them, because the titles are a different size, it's a different font than the body of the poem. The fonts on Word are not the same as the fonts on Atticus that I had decided that I really liked, so I had to, whatever. You don't need to worry about the nitty gritty. The point is that it was very tedious and it took a long time. And this is something that I've already been doing over and over for months to try to get it where I want it on Google Docs. I know this will not be the last time that I format this same book, because today when I did it, I just kind of picked fonts, but I'm not sure that I'm in love with them. And I still have to add the title page, the table of contents, and all of that. And that's going to change the spacing for every subsequent page. Anyway, I know I'm just kind of rambling at this point, but what I learned from that was, it all works out. It's all going to be fine. And the old me would have been so even more frustrated. I am a little like, that's annoying, but I've been able to let it go so much faster than I would have in the past, because I'm choosing to feel peace. And that intention that I set this morning at some point, and all of this came back to me right before I filmed this video. Actually, I was like, remember you were going to choose peace? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm choosing peace. I'm choosing to let it go. I can't get back that time. Yeah, maybe I wasted the time. Maybe I spent it doing something that wasn't productive, but I can't get it back. Oh, here's the other thing. I wanted to put this in the intro, but I'll just put it here. So something I heard that was really cool recently was talking about how all animals feel stress, but humans are the only species that talk about their stress. So a dog will feel stress and shake it off. Literally, they do the shake and then carry on about their day. People will have a stressful event happen and then they'll go complain about it and they'll rehash it and they'll keep bringing up those stressful emotions. Now, I do think talking about things can be helpful if we're reflecting on them or getting it out of our system. But complaining about something and thinking constantly, oh, I should have done that, or why did it go that way, or this is so annoying, isn't really healthy or productive. And I know I'm doing that to some degree here, but my intention with sharing this is so that you can learn from it and to help put things into perspective. So the next time that you're in a situation where you're like, oh my gosh, this is frustrating, I don't like this, remember, communicate. Ask for help, ask for guidance. We're not meant to be one-man bands. We're not meant to do everything in the world by ourselves. We are actually meant to receive help and support. So I encourage you not to just rely on Google and Reddit and YouTube, even though I do that a lot too. It always goes better when you just ask a real person for help, and people will help you. And if you're not getting the answer that you need or the support that you need, express, hey, I could really use a little more support. And maybe don't leave them a little frowny face like I did, but do something to let them know that you could use a little more help. And I think people will usually try to give you that. So the other thing that was super exciting about all of this that I just wanted to mention is that, so I go through and I formatted the Word document for the most part. And then at the very end, I'm like, okay, I wanted to record a video today. That was on my list. And I was going to do something totally different, but here we are. And I was thinking, how can I channel some of this frantic stress energy into something productive, something useful, something helpful for the world? I have no idea if this video is going to be helpful at all for anybody, but whatever, it's making me feel like I'm getting something done. So I was like, okay, I need to stop formatting this book and get to recording. And at the last minute, though, right before that, I was like, okay, I know that for KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing, for ebooks, I don't know this, but I'm fairly certain that you have to have a table of contents, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to go with Atticus, because they automatically have a table of contents. They automatically know how to format ebooks and yada, yada. It's very well connected. So that's a bonus for them. And so I was like, oh, can I even do a table of contents in Microsoft Word? It's been a while since I've used Microsoft Word. And so I Googled it, and then I did a table of content. And then, oh my gosh, it generated the most beautiful table of contents, way better than the one on Atticus, because this one not only had the chapter headings, but it had each of my poems in the table of contents as well. So it was like the chapter title and then poem, 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 poem by title. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So all of that, and I ended up with something that I like even better and I have a lot more freedom with, and I can add pictures if I want to. I can format it a lot easier, and now I'll know when an aspiring poet friend or when a poet friend asks me, how do I format my poetry book? Now I'll at least have some experience to say, a lot of people use Atticus for their books. Here's an option, although they personally told me that they're not particularly optimal for poetry. I use Microsoft Word, and so far so good. I haven't published yet, so maybe I'll hit a giant roadblock before, but I'm trusting that it's all going to work out. And even if it doesn't, even if I have to reformat my book 1,700 more times, it's going to be fine. It's going to be published. All will be well. Keep things into perspective. So that was just my long, rambly video about what happened today, and I'm sharing it with the simple mentality of share the things that we learn. Tell stories. People learn from stories. And there is also a lesson that we can learn in anything that happens. This may be totally irrelevant to your life, but whatever you're going through, there's always a lesson, and there's always something we can learn from and improve on. And I feel proud of myself for taking that annoying experience and turning it into something, even if it's not the most coherent something. It's something. And yeah. So again, please check out my online course, which is much more organized and structured than this video, I guarantee. And my free download, which is 5 powerful perspective shifts for perpetual confidence. In that, I also include some strategies that I use with my one-on-one clients on how to override jitters in the moment so that you're not victim to nervousness or anxiety, and you can actually use that to fuel you. So go check it out. Share this video with someone who you think could use it, and thank you for watching all the way to the end. You're a trooper. Okay, so I already recorded that video and was already editing it, but I just had to come back in to say, so earlier today, I reached out to the person that I had contacted on Fiverr that's a book designer, and I said, hey, what program do you use to format the books? Because if he uses Atticus, I'm like, why pay someone who uses that? I said, do you use Atticus or InDesign or some other program? He just responded to me, and guess what he said? I do all my formatting on Microsoft Word. So now I feel kind of bad because I'm not going to hire him, but oh my goodness. Fun fact.